Hello, my name is Daniel Martinez for Shadowfall Games. I'm going to start the presentation for our game Eclipse by showing you the menu. I created the menu, so I'm going to go first. We'll start here in Perforce. I'll show you that we have the BAL final sprint build, September 20th. That's today's date. And the changelog number is 1199110. And I'll show you first that it opens from here, but I'd rather play it from the folder on my computer. It seems to play better that way. Everybody tells me I'm wrong about that, but I've noticed it a couple times that it tends to lag when you open it from Perforce. So I'll let this open up just to show you that it's opening up from Perforce. The game, and then I'll open up the folder. As you can see, same one, BAL final sprint build, September 20th. Sorry to make you sit through the splash screens again. Okay, so from the menu, I already showed you when you quit the game and you hit yes, it closes the game. So I'll show you on the confirmation screen. Click no, it goes back to the menu. As you can see, all the credits are here. Everybody's working on the game. Back button brings you back to the menu. Alright, now for the settings. Settings is actually one of my tasks, so I'm going to bring up the task in Jira for that. Alright, so the settings took me a long time because I was originally intending on going with audio settings, but I couldn't seem to get the audio to carry over from the main menu to the level. So I ended up changing that, and I went with video settings, like graphic settings instead. So this took me a long time. It took me 6 hours and 53 minutes on a 6-hour original estimate, so I went a little bit over, but like I said, that's because I ended up changing it after a while. So the description is, as a player, I want some kind of working options so I can tweak the experience to my liking. Dependencies are the options menu, and the completion criteria are build a working options menu where the player can change things like audio and screen settings. So go back in the game and I'll show you. You click in settings, you have the graphic settings over here. You can click on C controls to get a gist of the game's controls before you go into the game. Click back, it brings you back to the options menu. And click back, it brings you back to the main menu. Now, as far as the options go, I'm going to turn this down as low as I can go so you can see the difference here. So, click apply settings. Alright, so I'll show you when I play the game. Everything looks washed out, there's no shadows, the lighting is bad, it looks bad altogether. I'll even show you when I pick up one of the pickups in here, like even the lighting on the pickups is dull, lighting on the bridge is dull. Bullets look boring, all that stuff. So, if we go back to the main menu, I will go back to the settings and I will increase the settings back up. I like to go with 1080 just because, I don't know what this laptop can handle. So I'll apply on ultra settings. Now when I go back into the game, the lighting is nice, there's shadows, the character looks good. Bullets are bright, flashing on fire. Pickups, they reflect on the floors and the walls. And they're much brighter, the bridge is much brighter. So I'll show you when the character picks up one of the... Well, I'll show you that later on. Alright, so that's the settings. So I'll go back to the main menu and keep going over that. Now in the level select, we have 4 options here. Now the toy box isn't part of the game. When you click on play game, you'll never actually have to go to the toy box. But just to show you that it works, this is a place for the player to come to, just play around. And he can access the levels from there too. But as far as the main game goes, you can get to the first level from the level select. You can go to the second level from the level select. And you can get to the final level from the level select. then the last thing on the main menu is when you play the game, it starts out on the first level. So that's the main menu. Nicholas Larkin's going to take over next when he shows you the first level. But I'll be back later to show you my tasks, and then I'm going to do a full playthrough of the game at the end of the video.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Larkin, and I'm going to be doing a playthrough of level 1. And I'm also going to be showcasing my task. Let's launch the package build. Play the game to start my level. The settings, credits, select level. Let's start my level now, and we're gonna go to the task. And the first task we're going to start with is modify tutorial display information on pickups. Actually, the first thing I will show you that we have a pause menu here. You can see the resume, you can see the controls, and you can quit to the main menu and quit to the desktop or see the map. And we're going to go back to the task at hand. Okay, so modify tutorial display information on pickups. For the description of this, as a player, I want to be able to see a briefing on what pickups do for you. Completion criteria: the player should see new words on the tutorial UI pickup, well, pop-ups on pickups. The tutorial box should disappear after pressing C, the C key. And I logged 4 hours for that, and we are going to go to the actual end game of the task. And so, as you can see in the top left corner, I modified the tutorial box now, and now it says press C to close, and if you do that, it will close the tutorial when you're done with it. And for the pickup right here, if you overlap it, you will get a tutorial box that pops up that tells you what the blue pickup does, or the power-up does. So it says blue triggers a shockwave activated with the F key. And if you use the F key, it triggers a shockwave when it's activated. And you would have saw next to this shockwave at the bottom left corner, you would have saw a mushroom cloud. And if I press C, it goes away. And you will continue seeing that in this playthrough. Now on to the next task. The next task was more of a bug task, and it said bullets trigger bridge collision box fix. As a player, I want to shoot in any direction without activating the nano bridge. If a bullet happens to hit it triggers box. Hit its triggered box. Summary line: nano bridge activates when hit by a bullet. Expected results: when shooting in any direction, the nano bridge should not activate even if a bullet hits a trigger box. Actual results: the nano bridge activates when hit when hit with basically when the bullet hits the trigger box. Steps to replicate: start the game, assume a role to the player, and then aim and shoot in the direction of the nano bridge. Observe if the nano bridge activates when the bullet hits the trigger box of the nano bridge. The severity, it's pretty high because you don't want enemies spawning. So this presumption stems from the potential distribution in gameplay when the player is intentionally shoots and activates a crucial game feature. Please modify based on your game's specific impact. And for this task, I did 4 hours on it. I logged 4 hours. And we will go back to the task. And if you see right here, I haven't activated the bridge yet. And now if you shoot it, it will not trigger any more enemies to come like it used to before, because before when you shot this, enemies would appear. But if I walk into it as the player, they will come now. Okay, let's go back to the task section to talk about the next task. Okay, so for the next task, you will see fix nano bridge. The description for this: as a designer, I want everything in my level to work so the player can have an experience that is not broken. Dependencies: nano bridge level, completion criteria, fix all enemy spawns so that the enemies spawn correctly and activate the bridge when they die. Summary: sometimes the enemies do not spawn the way they should, and it will not activate the bridge after the player defeats all the enemies in the area. Expected results: when the player reaches one of the 3 nano bridges in the level, a group of enemies are supposed to spawn. Once the enemies are defeated, the bridge activates and comes together for the player to walk over. Actual results: sometimes the enemies do not spawn correctly, and either one or more of the enemies don't spawn at all, or they are spawning in a place where the player can't see or shoot them. This makes it so that the bridge will not activate and the player has no way to cross. Steps to replicate this: begin the level and make it to one of the nano bridges. Move close to the bridge and wait for the enemies to spawn. Kill all the enemies and wait to see if the bridge comes together. Severity: this issue is severe because if the enemies do not spawn and cannot be killed, then the bridge doesn't come together, and this makes the level unbeatable. Environment: none. So this here, you can see this is the bug task that I fixed, and it says the time I logged for this. I logged 4 hours, and we're going to go back to the game to show that this is fixed. So this was a showcasing too that it was fixed, but I'm actually going to go to a bridge and show you that it's fixed. tell you what this does. And if we try this bridge, we should be able to activate it. Okay, and the bridge activated. So let's go to the next task. And the next task is allow movement while you are also aiming. In the description for this, as a player, I want to be able to aim, be able to move while I am aiming and shooting. The completion criteria for this is when the player aims, movement should not be disabled. While the player is moving, the aim should be able to rotate or be used. And this was a very difficult task. This was a very difficult task, and it took me a day and 4 hours to complete. That is because of the task had a completion criteria themselves. And it is for this subtask, when the player aims, movement should not be disabled. The player should not be stuck in a spot when they aim. And this was 4 hours logged for this. And that was the description of that subtask. As we can go back to the next subtask. And while the player is moving, the aim should be able to be rotated or used. When you use the aim, I should be able to turn the camera and move at the same time. And we logged 4 hours for this, contributing to the whole task having a day and 4 hours. And we're going to showcase that. Even though in a way we have showcased it, but we're going to showcase it anyway to make sure it's seen and known. As you can see, I have died too. And I'm going to respawn at the most recent checkpoint, so we are also able to die. But I'll just make sure to show that again. I should probably get this to help me fight these terrorists so I don't die again. Bridge came together after killing the enemies. Let's heal up and defeat these enemies. Oh, and just to make sure you know that the character can die, we'll showcase that again, just to make sure you've seen it. Character dies, can't move. We'll respawn at the last checkpoint, which is on the other side of the bridge. And now we will use the portal to get to the next level. And that will be it for this level playthrough, and also showcasing of my Jura task. And that concludes this video.
Hi, I'm Scott Rutt, and this is my showcase of the work that I've done for this second sprint in Team Shadowfall. This is also the showcase of level 2 of Eclipse, which is our game. So loading in, and then selecting level 2, Shroud Sneak. This is everything that the player is presented with at the initial entry of the level. This is a dialog box that sends us back to the very beginning of the level, if the player so desires. Player can hit escape and pause the game. The player can go to the menu, review the controls, just see the area map of areas of the level that are around them. Player can go to main menu, just to show that this works. And the player can go to desktop from here. This also has a confirmation, but I'll show that later. So to move through, there's a checkpoint here that's been placed. And there's a dialog box to show and signpost the main mechanic of this level, which is while the player is crouched, and you crouch using X, that's been changed after feedback from some playtesting rounds with this being C and then changing it. That got changed. This door still doesn't open unless the player is shrouded, in which case it stays open. So these enemies, they used to, when you were shrouded, they would still turn to hurt you. And this has been changed, that they no longer react to you while you're here. Just to show that there is a failure state that's working. There is a checkpoint working in the level, and this checkpoint is here. It's vaguely visible. To show on Jira, things that I have been working on. We had 4 hours of playtesting over on 13, 14, and 20. I ended up getting my dad to do this, to play the game, look at it, try stuff, and work stuff out. And I got my dad to play it over and over. Round 2 of playtesting was done by my mom. And again, this was done and updated on Jira today. This was meaningfully different. I was working on it and working for 2 hours with it on myself on the 16th. But working on it for 13, 14, 16, and making edits to the level was done today. This wasn't just 4 hours of playtesting. This was similar to round 1, where there were things that we wanted to change. I left time open here for actually making edits to things that we found in playtesting. For enemy visibility, it took a while. It took 3 hours, and I finished up today. But did work on the 16th to get this shroud working, to make it so that enemies didn't turn to face the player. That was hard-coded in, that they would turn to face the player when you were using that shroud. And finally today, again, I made the issue on the 13th, but today we sped up player bullets. So as you can tell, they're faster than they were in other versions of the build. So the player crouch, and that was the damage picker to make player do more damage. So that sound is that keycard becoming available, and there's the checkpoint. So to pick up the keycard, just to crouch. These doors open once, if the player is visible, while crouching. So this is the final area, and that's the boss. These sensors, if they detect you, are deadly, deadly, deadly. They will kill you if that happens. So just to show, if you ever become visible, so I released Q to just show what happens. The player is immediately killed, so it's a big deal. The boss can see you. The boss knows where you are, but the boss doesn't exactly know where to find you, so they can still shoot you. This boss takes a lot longer to kill. You get damage. So the player can get the yellow key. The camera shifts when there's contact with things. Oh, one final thing. With all the doors in the area, we found that players were actually able to jump over things. And so invisible walls got added to make it so that. So here's the level exit. And you can start the next level to fade into the third level. So just to show that this is working, you can quit to desktop. That signpost at the end of the level 2 boss fight, I put 4 hours on this estimate because I thought that there would be more that was needed besides just a single side post. I was thinking that maybe I wanted to change the color of the sensors to make them look different and to make mechanics more clear. That wasn't a thing that I eventually found necessary. So, but I only spent 2 hours on this. I did some tweaking and it didn't seem helpful. So that will be all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christopher Sherman, and I will be showing you laser level, which is level 3 of our game Eclipse. We are Shadowfall Games, and here I'll show it opening up from the File Explorer. Click on this, and we have build today, September 20th. And I'll go ahead and open the project file. Alright, and now that we're here, we'll go ahead and dive into level 3, the laser gun level. And so while we're in the starting area, first off, I would like to show the first task. And so the first one I wanted to show is the one that took the most time, enemy AI moving in combat. So as the player, I would like the enemy to move around in combat instead of standing still when firing or only moving when I move. Completion criteria: make the enemy strafe around the player when in combat and make the enemy seek opportune locations to shoot from, such as behind cover or crouch down. This took me significantly longer than I anticipated. I only thought it was going to take me 8 hours, ended up taking me 17. Part of the reason for that was that I basically had to completely remake the enemies' behavior trees and change the way they perceive threats and made decisions. And so I'll go ahead and show you that, and I'll explain a little bit about what's going on. And so what happens is when the enemy's patrolling, and then when the enemy sees the player, they begin shooting. If the player shoots back and a bullet hits them, the enemies consider themselves threatened, and so they will run to cover or crouch down. And when they are in that state, they will pop up every once in a while and fire their weapon, and then they'll crouch back down. When the player, until either they're dead or if the player leaves, they will leave that state, and they will resume their normal behavior that they're doing before they see you. So I'll go ahead and show you that. Also, it's worth noting that I felt it was cool to have enemies behave differently. So the grenade launcher enemies don't take cover since they're a heavier enemy. I thought they have more health and they move slower. I thought it'd be cool to have them just like stand out in the open, and then the assault rifle enemies do take cover. So here you can see him squatting down, and he just take cover like that, and then right there too. About to die. Alright, and so let's go ahead and go back and show you that again, but this time I'll just do it normally. I like to charge the laser before I run out there. Alright. And that takes me to the next task, which is laser receiver color. As a player, I would like to see the color of the laser activated switches change color, so I know I activated them correctly. Completion criteria: make the laser activated receivers change color when they are activated, and make laser receiver emit a spark when activated. This took me only 2 hours, a lot less time than I anticipated, and I'll go ahead and show you that. It's worth noting that I ended up dropping the spark idea and just kept the and changed the color, but I also added a sound instead of sparks to demonstrate that it's opening. So there you can see it changed from red to green, and played an old computer startup noise when it opened. Take out these guys. And so also, it's worth noting that when the camera's kind of freaking out here, it's worth noting that when if the enemies do not have any, it's a line trace for certain walls, and so if the enemies don't have any of those walls nearby, they will just skip the cover behavior entirely and just resume their normal behavior of shooting and going through. We're going to this wall, and then I'll go ahead and charge the laser. Jump over. You can see it with these guys. They don't have any cover to do, so they'll just continue their normal behavior. And so here is a good time to show you this bug, the laser level button timeline restarting on multiple fires. Summary, or as a designer, I want all my in-game mechanics to function correctly. Summary: firing on the button multiple times in the level may occasionally cause the movement of the object to break. When the player fires at the laser receiver, it should open a door, raise a bridge, reveal stairs, etc., and stay that way for the remainder of the level. The actual result is if the receiver is fired upon multiple times, the object's position can reset and won't play again, making progression impossible. Steps to replicate: fire at the receiver once in the glass area of the staircase, and a staircase will reveal itself underneath. Fire at it again, and the staircase can disappear. I found, as I was testing it, that it would happen if the receiver was fired upon twice before a timeline was completed. And so it wouldn't happen every time, but when it would happen, it completely halts your progression because it doesn't play again. And so I said this is moderately severe since it doesn't seem to be happening all the time, but does break progression when it does occur. And so I'll go and show you this, and I will show it once, and I'll try to get it again while it's. So I kind of did it before the timeline finished there, and it's fine. Now I'll do it again now that the timeline's completed. And it's staying there. Now let's do it again. No issues. Okay, and this next area is a good chance to show the next task. Let's see, enemy sight. As a designer, I want my enemies to be able to shoot me when I'm crouching, so the player can't use it as an exploit to beat the game without being hit. Dependencies: Enemy character, boss character, completion criteria. Give the enemy the ability to aim vertically as well as horizontally. Increase the vertical size of the collision box on the enemy bullets. And so for that one, it took me about 2 hours. I initially, which is less than I anticipated, I initially was going to work on aiming vertically, but let's go back in here. I was going to get them to aim vertically, but I decided against that just because it messed up the way that they were crouching. When they were crouching versus when they were standing, the crouch would offset would cause them to stay in vertically all the time. And so I just went with making the collision bigger, so I can show you that like this. Crouching, and he is still hitting. Okay, and then before we progress, let's go ahead and run back here and make sure there's no other things I'm missing. The last thing is just testing time. As a player, I would like to have the overall best and bug-free experience I can with the game. Test, find, and fix other bugs. And so, and on that I spent 2 hours. So now we can just go ahead and finish the level. Oh, and I can show an example of that. One of the other things I fixed is I reworked all the text boxes in the level to kind of fit the theme of the other text box. Oop. Oh, he was still alive. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. Activate that one, and then just double check on both of these. I will show that they don't reset. And all right, now that turret. Let's go ahead and hop into the boss area. Now we got all the cover set up. Use this cover too. Got him. Let's get some health. Charge the laser. Fire. Fire. that is it. That's the third level. And go ahead and walk through this door and completed the game. And so yeah, that is Laser level 3. I hope you enjoyed it, and I believe I covered all the requirements. So thank you for watching, and bye.
Hello, Daniel Martinez again, and I'm back to show you my tasks that I took care of in this final sprint. So I already showed you the game opens from Perforce under the changelog 1199110. So I'm going to open it up from the folder. That's how I prefer to play it. So we'll go in. Get through the splash screens and everything before I start showing you the JIRA tasks. Alright, so now that we're on the main menu, I will bring up the first task. So my first task was larger pickup box. Now the reason this was a task was because the pickup box was too small, and it was theorized that it wouldn't be very noticeable from the player. So this one took me 3 hours and 6 minutes to work on with a 2 hour and 30 minute original estimate, so I went a little bit over, but there was a lot of things to go through for this one. So as a player, I want to be able to see the active and inactive pickups so I know what I can do and what the enemies can do to me. So the dependencies are the power-ups, which are Shockwave, 2 times damage, and Adrenaline, and the pickups widget. The completion criteria is move the pickup widget to the bottom left of the screen, make the widget larger so it's easier to read, remove distracting visual effects from the character. Now the reason I put remove the distracting effects from the character is because I had a particle effect that used to emanate from the character when you picked up the Adrenaline, and it was a lot bigger than I expected, and it tended to take up a lot of the screen, and it was very bright and it was very distracting. So I'll show you what I mean when I go into the level. So if you notice on the bottom left of the screen, there's a power-ups box. This is an indicator of when you pick up one of the power-ups in the game, it'll tell you that it's active, or tell you how much time you have, or that you have picked it up. So originally it was up in the top left, right under the health bar, but it was very small and very hard to notice. So I increased the size of everything in the pickups box. When you collect the Shockwave, a symbol will appear showing that you have a Shockwave available. The temporary Adrenaline is on a timer that lasts 10 seconds. So when you pick that up, a 10-second timer will show up in the heart, and it'll count down from 10 to 0, and then you will lose the power-up once the countdown is over. The 2-time bullet, the inactive word turns to active and turns green. So let's show you some of that. I also added visual feedback to the character when you pick up one of these. Like for instance, we have a Shockwave pickup right here. So when you pick up that, you can see the logo shows up on the Shockwave. And when you use the Shockwave, it activates the Shockwave and the logo goes away. So let's activate some enemies here so I can show you the power. Alright, so we have a 2-times bullet, so I'll start with that one. So when you pick it up, see it turns to active. And I also added more of a deeper sound to fire the 2-times bullet, and it also has a smoke trail, just to show you that it's a more powerful bullet. So I will see if I can find an adrenaline pickup. Adrenaline pickup, so I'll grab that one. So now you can see when you have the Adrenaline, the countdown timer is going, and the character has a glowing effect on their body. So when the countdown is over, oh, and there's a heartbeat sound too. So when the countdown's over, the heartbeat goes away, and so does the glow. So that's the power-ups. So I'll take you back to the main menu now, and we'll get back to the next task. Okay, so the next task was settings. Just as you go over the time again, that one took me 6 hours and 53 minutes to complete, but I already showed you that earlier when I did the menu. So we went with fixed camera. So originally the camera was giving us an issue where when the character was up against the wall, the camera would zoom in real close and we'd lose a lot of the visibility of the playable area. So if we were fighting with enemies, you couldn't see where you were shooting or anything. So originally I tried to work out a way where you could see through the objects that the character was standing against, but I couldn't get that to work without the floor disappearing every time the character crashed. So I ended up zooming out the camera enough to where you still have a good view of the playing field even when it zooms in a little bit. So and there's also a laser sight on the gun now, so you can see where the character is pointing even if the character is not in view. So that was a big one. That one took me 5 hours and 43 minutes to try and get it all to work with a 6-hour original estimate. The description is, as a player, I want a camera that allows me to see characters at all times so I can effectively play the game without the scenery in my way. So the dependencies are the player camera. The completion criteria are fix the camera so the player has a view of the character without being blocked by the scenery, make the scenery go transparent if the line of sight is broken between the camera and the player. Like I said, we didn't achieve that one, but we did make the view a lot better. So we'll go in, we'll start the first level again, and we'll move up against this wall just to show you that when we turn the camera, it zooms in a little bit, but you still have a good view of everything around you, and the laser sight also shows you where the character's pointing, so that even if the character's not in view, you can still see everything you're doing. Back to the main menu. On to the next task. So the next task was a door prompt fix. So for this one, it took me 1 hour and 13 minutes because it was simple, just slight coding inside the door itself that we had to fix. The description is, as a player, I want to be told to open or close the door so I don't see floating text that always tells me to open the door even if the door is already open. Dependencies are the doors, and the completion criteria are make text on the doors either change to closed door when the door is already open, or make the text disappear altogether once the player has opened the door. So we will go into the third level, as that one has doors almost immediately. So I can show you. There we go. Alright, so there's a door right here. So when you walk up to the door, it says press E to interact. So it doesn't say open or close. I decided to go with interact. That way it works for both open and close. When you walk away from the door, it disappears. When you walk back, it comes here. So when you open the door, it automatically disappears. But now when you step away and come back, it'll reappear so that you know you close the door, and it also disappears when you close the door. That way it's not just floating in the air even if the door is open. And then you can walk through. So that's the door prompt. I believe the next task is also from this level, so let me just double check. So, okay, it's actually not. So I'm going to go down to the double click windscreen because it's part of this level. Now the issue here was that when you reach the windscreen of the game after the final level, the character didn't have immediate access to the buttons on the windscreen. They'd have to click the screen first, and then they would have access to the buttons. So this one was a quick fix. It only took about 12 minutes. I really just had to change the input settings on the character or on the level so that, or I should say, on the windscreen widget. That way, when the windscreen widget was up, you had immediate access to everything. So the description is the summary: the windscreen has to be clicked on once before the buttons are accessible. Expected result: when the windscreen pops up, the buttons at the bottom should be immediately accessible when the screen pops up. Actual result: the screen needs to be clicked on once to make the buttons able to be pressed. Steps to replicate: play the game until you reach the end of the third level, where the windscreen will display. Attempt to click one of the buttons, and you'll realize that they do nothing until the second time you attempt to click one of them. The severity: this bug has a medium severity as it doesn't break the game in any way, but it is inconsistent with the rest of the menus and screens with buttons. And it also should not be necessary, as one would expect an immediate result when clicking a button in a game. Alright, so this one will take me a minute because I'll have to make it to the end of the level. Luckily we already have this level loaded up, so I'll just click resume from the pause menu, and we'll get going. This is the longest level ever. Fair warning, I will probably not release this, because this level is also the most difficult. mechanics or any of the level itself. It's not my place. Also, bear with me, I am very bad with keyboard and mouse, so platforming is not the best when it comes to keyboard. See? It's a very tiny platform and I have very big fingers. Let's try it. Hey. Time. Again, I apologize for this taking so long. Team's bad on that. Almost done. Level, I'll show you. The windscreen's about to pop up when I walk through here. So now, as you can see, the windscreen's up. The buttons are immediately accessible. I don't have to click on the screen first. That clicking is from the buttons themselves. So we'll go back to the main menu, and that's that task. So on to the next task. Alright, so the next one is the Alright, well, I'll show you my testing time. We were told to put in 8 hours of testing. I did a lot more than 8 hours, but just to show you, I put 1 day log. That is 8 hours in work time. This time is set aside for Daniel to test the game and find bugs. So that's that. So shooting on level select. Now, the idea behind this bug was that when you're on the level select screen, if you clicked on any of the blank areas in between the buttons, you could hear the character shooting. And that's not supposed to do that. So it took me 52 minutes to work on this one. The description reads, summary. In this bug, when the player goes into the level select menu, from the main menu and clicks the left mouse button, the sound of the character's gun can be heard shooting. The expected result, nothing happens on the level select unless the player is selecting a level, in which case the player will click directly on the name of the level and the level will begin. The actual result, if the player clicks on any of the blank area of the level select menu, the character can be heard shooting. Steps to replicate. Begin the game and navigate to the level select button on the main menu. Click the button and see the level select menu. Click on any part of the blank space in between the buttons to start the level. It will play the character's shooting sound that occurs when the player fires the main character's weapon. The severity of this issue is not severe. It's in no way game breaking. If the player clicks directly on one of the level buttons, they would never even notice the bug. So just to show you that is fixed, I will go into the level select. Now you can see where the buttons are, because when you hover over them, there's a border that comes up. So any of this blank space in here is just blank space. When you click, you can hear my mouse clicking, but no gun shooting. So that's that. On to the next one. I think all we have left is the turret aim. Now, the reason for this one is because we have turrets in every level, and a lot of times they wouldn't start out facing where the player enters the particular part they're in, and a lot of times the turrets wouldn't even see them. You could take out the turrets without them ever even noticing you're there. So for a little more difficulty and a little more, realism, I put a rotator on the turrets. That way they would turn and they would find the player if the player was standing around for too long. They're still avoidable if you wanted to walk around them, but that just adds to the gameplay, if you ask me. Now, this was a quick fix. Like I said, all I had to do was add a rotator to all the different turrets that we have. It only took me 14 minutes of work to do. The description is, as a player, I want the turrets in the game to rotate when they are placed so they can find me and begin to shoot. Dependencies, turret guns. Completion criteria, add a rotator to the turrets so they are constantly looking for threats. So, I will go back into the game. And I will go into the first level because we have turrets here, and I'll show you what I mean. There's turrets right on the other side of this bridge. Alright, so, as you can see, the turrets are turning now. So, where I'm standing right now, I'm too far for them to see me, but if I step closer, and I wait for them to rotate around enough, see, they notice me and they start shooting. So that's what I did for that. So that's all of my tasks. Like I said, I'm going to come back at the end of the video and do a full playthrough.
Hi, my name is Brandon Neal, and today I'm going to be going over everything that I completed for the final sprint. The first task that I was assigned with was re-implementing the respawn checkpoints, so that the player can respawn at a certain point in the game. This task itself took me 6 hours to complete. The two subtasks that I had was the checkpoint can't be identified by the player, so they know a checkpoint has been reached. And the second one is the player respawns at a certain point when crossing a checkpoint. Both first one took me 2 hours to complete, and the second one took me around 4 hours. So I'm gonna go showcase that and do the build. Open it up. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to showcase is the checkpoints that I had. The first task was making sure that the player can identify that a checkpoint has been reached, and the second one was when the player dies, they'll respawn at a certain point. So I'm going to show the checkpoint working. First task, the player can identify when a checkpoint has been reached. When they cross a checkpoint, it pops up saying checkpoint reached. And show the player dies, you hit the respawn button, and they respawn back at the point that they cross. For my second task, I had to add all the checkpoints to the 3 levels that we have, to the Nano Bridge level, the Healing Shot level, and the laser level. So I'm gonna show that. I don't know why I closed the build. So the first one was the Shroud Seat. You see, come up here. There's a checkpoint here, and there's one. Also a checkpoint here. So the laser level. There's also one here. And that's it. Okay, and for my final task, and for this, I don't think I discussed this. It took me around 6 hours to complete this. Adding the checkpoints to each level took me around 2 hours for each of these tasks. The last task I had was removing the test items from the ship. I removed all pickups and doors and enemies from the ship and move the level kiosk to a position where the player can see it better. So I'm gonna show that. So in the ship level, the player comes here, they can talk to this NPC, and it tells them to just go through this door here. They can get to the level kiosk, which has all the level 1. There's no more test items in here. And that is everything that I completed for this.
Hello again, Daniel Martinez here, and I'm going to do a full playthrough of our entire game from beginning to end. So, I'm going to open it up from the folder again. I already showed you in the beginning that it opens up from Perforce, so I don't think we have to worry about that again. Now, I'm going to explain the menu again just to kind of go over it once more, because I haven't seen it since the beginning of the video. But after that, once I play the game, I'm not going to do any narration. I'm just going to play the game so you can see how the game works from beginning to end. At this point, you should have already seen all the explanations you needed to see. So once again, you got Quick Game, brings up confirmation screen. Click No. Credits show everybody who worked on the game. I already showed you the settings work. You can see the controls. Back. Level select, you get to choose which level you want to go to. Then we play the game. I will, however, once I get into the game, I will pause it real quick just to show you that the pause menu works. So, once you start the game, I'll pause it and show you everything in here. So from the pause menu, you can look at the map, which is just, basically shows you where you are on the map as you move throughout the level, and then click on this menu, you'll see different parts of the map. You can click on the controls, which shows you again the controls in case you need a little refresher on what you need to do. You can quit to the main menu, which brings up the confirmation screen. If you click yes, it brings you back to the main menu. And if you click no, it brings you back to the pause menu. You can also quit the desktop. I'm not going to do that because it takes too long to get back in, but if you click no, it brings you back to pause. And then if you hit resume, it brings you back to the game. Alright, so from here on out, it's just me going through the level. Alright, so there you have it. There's our playthrough of our entire game. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed creating it. And we'll see you on our next game.